Hi and welcome back to episode 15 of Sailing Stormdancer. And for those of you who have fallen upon the channel for the first time, the story so far is taking this 1973 31-foot Pout Ranger from a tired old boat into a comfortable cruising catamaran for 2025. There is so much to share with you that has gone so well in the past month. Big effort has gone into actually making diagrams for you guys to be able to see in advance what the intentions are and the reasoning behind it. We'll be covering the successful startup and test runs of the DT25 and the effort that has gone into the diagrams to be able to show you guys in particular exactly what we're doing and why. It's come a long way since the first episode went up on the channel. And I also want to give a special thank you to the guys that have jumped on the Ko-fi and donated a couple of quid here and there. It's heartwarming. Anyhow, these planks came from the same guy as I bought the outboard from Nolan up the country in Northern Ireland. And they may be a Rocco, we're not sure. They cut beautifully and they are reclaimed wood salvaged from, I believe it was a railway bridge that was being dismantled. Of course, nothing is ever easy. They were 1.5 inches short in the widest point on the profile between the two hulls. It was a simple matter of cutting 2 triangles just to fill that space to stop any lateral motion. Not that I expect there to be any. The planks themselves do actually span across between the mounting brackets that are already there in place from the original design out of the factory by the Pout brothers. So this is cosmetic more than anything. I can't imagine the video would actually convey the quality of these 2 pieces of reclaimed timber. Now, quick video diagram to keep you guys in the loop. Transom goes in like so, 2 back braces, and then the engine drops in place like so. And with the main beam cut to fit, it's time to then start thinking about the engine. Now, curiously enough, the DT25 extra long leg is not what I would call light. And I believe the expression is brute force and ignorance and sudden gusts of gravity, where a few magic words are uttered to take the pain away of it landing on my foot. And eventually, I found the right combination of swear words to defy gravity and get it oiked up and into place. In so many ways, this is an absolutely magical moment. For those of you who are new to the channel and haven't watched the previous episodes, there's quite a backstory here. Stormdancer is a 31-foot Pout Ranger, and that's rare. There is far too much to get into historically, but let's start here. The Pout brothers, the grandfathers of the cruising catamaran world. So as it turns out, the Pout Ranger 27 is historically the first ever all-GRP catamaran ever made. And by the time we got into the 70s, the Pout brothers were developing the 35s and the larger boats like the Snow Goose and the Elite. But they made a few 31-foot Rangers during that time. Finding a 31-foot Ranger at all is difficult enough, but finding the rarest of them, which is on bilge keels with kick-up rudders, well, I hit lucky to find Stormdancer. I guess you could call it a design prototype that failed commercially against the Snow Goose and the Elites, which were designed to be more roomy and caravan-esque on the inside. But as most of you know, finding the right boat for you means you have to have a fair idea what you want from your boat. Stormdancer is able to get into places where many boats can't. As you can see here, I'm right in on the shallows, beached comfortably, literally in walking distance from shore. And with the 12-foot beam, she's more than comfortable, as apparently she's done many times in her lifetime, of sailing down the French canals. But in the meantime, the guys have been joking with me that what I'm doing is so off the beaten track that they had to send a helicopter in to find out what it was I was doing. So if you have time, guys, go ahead and subscribe. Cosmetically, the engine wasn't great, so I stopped with the guys that carried off auto parts and had them look up the paint code, which is Suzuki Tempest Grey. and in a rattle can with a quick dust coat, that freshened up quite nicely. And yeah, I know it's only cosmetic and it's only a dust coat, but it does a lot to freshen the thing up. Now, one of the advantages of actually buying the engine second-hand off, my pal Nolan, was that he had left everything connected when he removed the boat it was on from the engine rather than the engine from the boat. He literally took the old fishing boat apart with an angle grinder. So the controller was still connected. And that got me to actually thinking about the Bowden cables here for the throttle and also for the gear selector. Somehow I couldn't bring myself to bring them inboard. And yeah, you could be sitting there watching that thinking this is daft. I'm sitting here doing it, thinking this is daft. But there was an underlying reason for deciding that I wanted to keep the Bowden cables on the outside. And for those of you who don't really know what a Bowden cable is, well, in essence, it's pretty much like a brake cable on your old pedally bike. And they don't like tight corners. So I got to pondering on this for a bit and realized that the obvious, simplest, most expedient way to install the cables was externally take them onto the Traveller and a very gentle curve round to the motor. And also, if I dress them along the edge face just above the port light, a little mahogany trim over the top of them with a router groove down the back means that they're very easily got to if there's an issue. They're right there where I can get at them, which is probably a whole lot easier than messing about chasing them through the boat. And they're a very simple thing anyway. In fact, if you look closely at my hands here, you can see that the shroud fits into a slot and the cable itself has got a little twist-on plastic cap with a locating hole in it, and it literally just clips on and then tightens up with a wee knot over the top of it. Seemingly, there's a lot of people in the boating community that are terrified of opening up a controller because they're expecting some dark arts in there. But in reality, it's a very, very simple thing. It's no more complicated than, a brake cable on a child's bike. Taking them onto the Traveller and then dressing them in round the back of the engine in a slow sweeping curve. This part though, for those of you who have not caught on yet of what I'm doing, it's worthy of a chuckle. And I'm going to openly admit it. The multi-core cable from the engine to the controller has several wires and connectors within the control box. And because everything is going so well, and because I know the engine is running, or at least was running, I have decided just to coil up the access of the electrical cable and wait for the tide to come in and do the test start without running the risk of introducing any other complications to it. So for now, I'm just taking the electrical cable, looping it round the Traveller, just bringing it back that way to the control box. There's no way I wanted to risk adding any further problems to it. So then it just came time for waiting the tide to come back in. And while I was waiting, it seemed like a good time to take the air mattress out of the front cabin and clamber up in there and finish installing the last of the curtains that needed to go in. And it's only when I took the air mattress out that it finally occurred to me that the air mattress was a problem. Yeah, you may well wonder how an air mattress could be a problem. I mean, yeah, it's sensible. If you're not going to be spending a lot of time sleeping on board the boat, the last thing you want to do is have a standard mattress in there. I mean, it does take a double, but, well, boats can get damp and mattresses can get moldy, especially if they're not in use. So an air mattress makes a lot of sense. Until you take it out and suddenly realize how much space an air mattress actually takes up. And the fact that an air mattress, when you go to kneel on it or move about on it, you just disappear into it, which means that space is not really usable for anything other than crawling up in for a sleep. Meanwhile, the tide had come in. And that sounder, which is the most piercing and aggravating sound you can imagine, is actually a feature of the DT25. When the internal two-stroke tank gets down to a quarter full, that alarm goes off. And at this point, I'm testing to make sure that that's working. The last thing you need is, if you're offshore, is to run out of two-stroke oil without knowing. There is no way with this engine you could possibly miss whenever she gets low, or at least down to a quarter full in the tank, which is plenty to be getting you to where you need to go and buying you enough time to top it up. Now for you guys, salty sea dogs, silverbacks and grumpy old men sitting there watching, it's a little bit different for me. This is the engine that I have just bought that hasn't been run properly in over 2 years. And therefore, as a result, I'm expecting it to be a little bit lumpy and bumpy and splutter and cough a bit while it sorts itself out. But overall, I'm delighted. This is one step closer to Stormdancer being ready to sail out of Strangford, down to the French canals and down into the Med. And it's been 2 years of working away patiently, sorting the interior out the way I wanted it, and then getting rid of that big BMC engine. 4 inches higher at the back end now. The 25 horsepower Suzuki, turnkey, charging. And I know there's a lot of you on the subscribers list, Gen Xers, you hate engines. But it's worth remembering that a bilge keel cat is a motor sailor. I mean, there's a lot of occasions where sailing just isn't an option. Putting the 25 horsepower Suzuki on there means that she can go wherever she's pointed without it being an issue. Just take a minute to realize how far she's come. And there's another bit of reasoning that I want to share with you guys. Having the extra long shaft, when it pivots down, it means that the prop is right down at the level of the bilge keels, which means any peaks and troughs coming through between the two hulls, the prop and the uptake is staying in the water. But there is another difficulty, and that is when I'm in shallow waters like this. The extra long shaft could be hitting the prop and the skeg off the bottom. So, diagram. Fuel tanks into food grade plastic baskets, a second steering wheel going in for the outboard itself, and then the option to put in a drop pod or a drop transom to be able to use the short shaft outboard from the dinghy as an auxiliary. Now, on the fuel tank, I've put a little modification so I can see the fuel flow here, because I'm suspecting that I've got an air leak at the other end with the connector that's going into the outboard. And then it was time to top up the two-stroke and turn her over to make sure that the alarm has cancelled. Then we're on to the part that I've secretly been dreading. That first time that you start her up, walk away, leave her running, and when your back's turned, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. Time to put the kettle on. Ignore it as long as I can. And you know as well as I do, that's not long. It's only a matter of seconds before I go back to check. But thankfully, it's running beautifully. And that has got to be one of the most satisfying feelings. That when you've chased your tail to track down the right outboard for your boat, you have it up and running, and it's everything that you were looking for. It's just wow. And then we have this moment. It's like holding your heart in your hand as you pump her into gear and see what we got. And oh yes, that is a cheerful sight. I haven't even opened her up at this point. I'm just happy that we're in gear and we're thrusting, stuff's happening, it's all going in the right direction. So I leave her to take over and I come back in, and this is another cheeky little share, Frankfurter hot dogs. When you're boating, frankfurters, hot water, pop them in a bob, splash of sauce, you're done. But it's only recently I actually find out that frankfurters, once you've opened the pack, even if you haven't put them in the fridge, they are able to keep for up to a week out of the packet. And I can tell you, it took something, because that engine's sitting taking over, and I keep wanting to go up and look and check and pinch myself that all is going well. So, settling in to make myself a couple of frankfurter hot dogs, I am truthfully battling this urge to go out and check on the outboard. It's going to take a while. As you all know, when you put a new outboard on your boat, you start it up, you don't take it for granted that all is well in its world. It takes time to get used to it, and I'm doing my utmost. Sitting here munching on frankfurter hot dogs, pretending that I'm calm inside, but I think my heartbeat is through the roof at this stage. But patience, they say, is a virtue, and I'm not so sure about that. In reality, it's been 2 years of struggles, long, hard graft, time and effort in converting Stormdancer from being a tired old boat into being a comfortable cruising motor yacht. And I'm only a couple of minutes away from this point of, for the first time, slamming that engine into gear and giving it a handful of revs and seeing what I've got. Taking a moment to just ponder on that. Trying to focus on me frankfurter and not think about it too much. But it's just reached that stage where, well, it's do or die. This is where it either all comes good or I'm going to be horribly disappointed. The engine's running beautifully. There's nowhere to hide. It's time to slam it into gear, open it up and see what I've got. Am I ready for that? Are you guys ready for that? You ready to see what happened? What do you think? You think it'll come good? Oh yeah. And from the back, let me just use visual graphics here to take away this paint line. Look at the difference in how high she's floating at the back. Guys, until next time, stay good, stay safe, and believe in the magic of your dreams.